Joining me now is former military paratrooper who has worked behind the scenes on Hollywood blockbusters, rubbing shoulders with the likes of Matt Damon, Brad Pitt and George Clooney. Paul Biddis is here to talk to me all about the work he's done on the sets of the Jason Bourne sequel and Fury, to name a few. Welcome, Paul. How are you?
How you doing? Good.
Brilliant. So tell us a bit about how you got into it all. How did you start working on Hollywood films?
I left the army on the 12th of the 12th of the 12th. Won't forget that. And I went into the normal stuff that soldiers do when they get out. They go into the security industry, close protection, surveillance. And then a friend of mine suggested getting dressed up in a World War II uniform for a laugh. And I'm like, why do I want to do that? Been doing it for 24 years. He said, well, it's only a laugh. It's an extra job on some feature film. So I thought, yeah, go on then, I'll give it a whirl. And it was a film called Monuments Men, which was directed by George Clooney. And all that happened was there was a scene, and I was asked to get out of a wagon, and I said, well, it might look a bit more realistic if you did it like this. And the guy next to him is a very well-known military advisor, a good friend of mine called Billy Budd, and he liked, I got on well with him. And then the next time I was on a film called Fury, which is running the boot camps for all the extras, selecting 300 extras out of 2,000 hopefuls, and then descaling down to 60 guys of the core group for Baker Company, and it really just took off from there.
And what are you actually doing on the sets when you're working with these actors?
I'll be training actors, and I'll be training the stunts, and I'll be training the extras, and also advising the director on how a scene could look more realistic. Obviously, there's always a balance between realism and Hollywood.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to, compromise and try and give the best sort of compromising idea, just so you can get it as close to reality as possible, but at the same time, make the director happy so he can fit a certain thing in the frame. And
so obviously all of this came about from you basically telling George Clooney what to do.
Yeah, it's that and some luck and being in the right place at the right time, but also the right attitude as well. Going onto a film set with a sergeant major attitude, barking orders at people, you're not going to go far. Stamping up and down, saying to a director, or shouting to a director, you wouldn't do it like this. It wouldn't. And I'm just as guilty as most ex-servicemen are, where you'll be looking at something going, oh, you'd never wear his hat like that, or he wouldn't salute like that. The problem is, as an advisor, you can only give advice. And the director either takes it or he leaves it, and it's simple as that. And you have to sometimes take it on the chin when that happens. But really, it's just attitude and being in the right place, I suppose. And it's word of mouth.
And that's how you've got onto all these other films, isn't it? Word of mouth. Obviously, people
word of
have
mouth
heard that
through my friend again, Billy Budd, because he's well known. And but that's really it. Really, it's just word of mouth. You don't apply for these jobs. You are asked to turn up to a studio, and then they have a chat, tell you what they want you to do, and then crack on from there.
And tell us a bit about working on the Bourne sequel, because I'm sure we've got a lot of fans of the movies.
Yeah, my part of the Bourne sequel was more to do with the Greek riot scenes, and we went to Tenerife to recreate the whole scenes, and obviously I saw lots of footage of the actual Greek riots. So I needed to train the rioters and the riot police in the tactics that were employed by that certain police force, and also by the rioters as well. And we had to make sure it was safe, but as realistic as possible. There are explosions, there's flares, there's real batons, real shields. The rocks are not real, but there's a lot going on. There's bikes going off, there's burning cars. So it's a quite a complicated setup, but it's, as long as you have, you do a lot of training prior to the camera shoots, the guys will be on set knowing what to do, how to do it. And for me, which is a very proud moment, is when the guys are actually forming lines after, when the director, Paul Greengrass, has a habit of just letting them run with it to see how it goes. And especially the police, they were starting to form an echelon, which is a big line once they break the crowd out instinctively, and that was due to the training that they were given. And I was very proud of that, because that obviously meant I'd done my job correctly. And Paul Greengrass was very happy with it as well.
I suppose when you're sat at home watching a film, you do forget that actually all of the people that are on screen are actors, and they're not naturally going to know how to do these sorts of things. So how do you get them into that sort of mindset that they do know instinctively what to do?
It's just training, really. You've got to articulate feelings as well, how you're going to feel. a certain guy's going to hold his weapon in a certain way. For example, you've got Bourne, you got the asset. They will hold a pistol a certain way, as opposed to maybe one of the Greek riot police. He's going to be less professional. He's going to have less time on the range. So it's just practice. You take them to one side. You get just correcting their stance, how they're holding a weapon. Matt Damon, the last time he played Bourne was 10 years ago. So he had to. It was a bit of muscle memory for him, how to remember how to hold a pistol correctly. And he, he's really good actually, and he picks it up very quickly. So I don't really have to concentrate on people like Matt Damon as much. Again, Vincent Cassel, very good, picks it up very quickly. Sometimes the stunt guys, you have to work a bit with them because they do, they're on so many different, film sets themselves, like myself. So you have to, get it into their mindset more so than most guys.
And has it ever been overwhelming, being around all of these famous faces? No. It's
a job. They do a job, I do a job, and that's really it. In the gym with Matt Damon, asking if he could borrow the bench, and I'm like, nah, and I just carried on pushing the weights.
Put him in his place.
Yeah.
What's he like as a person then?
Real
Is
nice
he as
guy.
humble as you seem?
Genuine as what you see on any interview. He's just a very genuine, nice guy. He's got no airs and graces about him.
And so tell us about, obviously there's lots of other people that you've worked with. Have you got any little secrets, any bad habits you can tell us?
I can't tell you any secrets or bad habits. They're all very nice people.
I'll go try and get that out of you.
Yeah.
And so what have you got coming up next? I know probably a lot of it's confidential, but is there anything you can tell us what you've got coming up?
I've got a film called Death of Stalin that's coming up that I've been involved with. Justice League, which is like the Batman, Superman, which I've had some involvement with. You've got Transformers 5, Kingsman 2, where I helped with the armory side of it, weapons. Sometimes I actually lose track of some of the films I've been involved with. So yeah, I think I did about 8 or 9 films last year, and by the looks of it, that's going to increase this year with the amount, as the reputation increases.
And you'll find the time to do it.
Yeah, I was in South Africa in November doing something for the BBC called The Last Post, training the actors up in the type of scenes that they're going to be playing or portraying. And then I was in Spain only last week doing something for another company.
Amazing. Well, unfortunately, we have run out of time. I would love to chat to you. I've got so many more questions I could ask.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for coming in, and best of luck with the rest of the films.
No problems. Thank you.